For the final time, I can say I'm here with Dunstable Town Chairman Andrew. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, Andy.
The news has broke in the past 24 hours. Not sure when Brad's putting this out, so we'll say 24 hours.
24 hours is good.
Just stepping down as Dunstable Town Chairman, my friend. What brought on the decision? It's been a role that you've been in for 5 years now, if I'm right. I was saying to Steve O'Reilly when I interviewed him, I said, I know any level of football, I can imagine being a chairman is not good. I listen to Talk Sport every day and they're talking about from the Premier League. I can only imagine, and obviously knowing you how I know you, I can only imagine at non-league level, that's probably tenfold than what goes on with these bigger clubs up in the Premier League. What was the thinking behind leaving the chairmanship behind at Dunstable Town?
Andy, if you remember the last time, I think you and I were chatting and we were in here, we had Julian, we had Neil, I think it was October, November time, and you asked me what was the most difficult role of that the chairman had. What I think that was it. What was the hardest thing? And I remember my answer very well, and it was getting people to accept that their role as a director is putting the best interests of the club first and foremost at every opportunity, and that is sometimes a little. It can sometimes create a bit of conflict, but I'd got to the position where I'm thinking the club is running really well at the moment. The board is an incredibly strong group of individual people. There is strength in every single department, every single facet of the club, every single cog in the wheel which needs to run smoothly for the club to be successful has been accomplished. What hasn't been accomplished is the need, in a sense, to give Dunstable Town a national identity. Now, 2 years ago, I got elected onto the National Council of the Football Supporters Association. So that's our parent body. So we're part of the community-owned club network. And I was invited to stand for election so that I could recreate what we do with mental health support services within the club through the Football Supporters Association. It's a 3-year elected term. I'm now coming to the end of my second year, and I really need to progress the work that lies ahead of us through the FSA. So it's that thing of everything at the club is running well. The financial side, I don't think we've ever been stronger. I'm confident that next year Steve will have a budget that is realistic in terms of challenging for promotion. The youth section now is absolutely, a real credit to all the guys who work so hard in the youth section. The women's section is going to be sort of come on board again next season. The governance, the accountability, the welfare under Corrie is, it's amazing. And all the guys at directorate level know what their specific responsibilities and duties are, and they just get on and do with them. And that, in a sense, has enabled me to think, okay, if I stay around just being chairman, am I putting the interests of the club at first, or am I putting Andrew's self-interest at first? And that I've been giving it a lot of thought over the last sort of couple of weeks, because the longer nothing is happening with the FSA in terms of the mental health strategy, which is what I got elected to do, the more work, in a sense, that lies ahead of me for when I finally get around to doing it. And it's imperative, in my opinion, that Dunstable Town has a national identity, that it has a brand that people recognise it for, because long term that's how you will have a sustainable future in terms of being able to attract big sponsors, whether they're national sponsors, whether they're local sponsors, whether it's attracting more players, whether it's attracting more supporters, more owners. So the realisation came to me sort of over the last sort of couple of directors' meetings, and when I spoke to the directors and I said, I looked round the table and all I see is strengths. And I'm just thinking, okay, but we haven't done what we really want to do nationally, which is get the club identified as having a purpose and the ability to change lives. So, our health and wellbeing programme, improving the lives of others, now is supporting over 200 people every week. You look at the work that Ian Bateman's doing with the Walking Football, that Lee Nutley is doing with Chums and Crumbs, which the guys are doing with, the mental health support groups. That's fantastic, but we need more people to be aware of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But we also, in a sense, want to be talking to our other community-owned clubs and saying, guys, you can be doing this as well. Andy, some of the messages that I've had in the last 24 hours from people who have messaged me and just talking in terms of, thanks for, in a sense, what you've done. You think, yeah, that's lovely, and it genuinely moves me, very humbling. But there's no reason why all the other clubs can't be doing something similar. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to get done if I don't do it. And I know that sounds a bit big-headed and a bit arrogant, but unfortunately it's true.
Yeah.
So what's good for Dunstable Town at the moment is me taking a slight step backwards, sideways, letting somebody else take over the role of chairperson, and I will then progress with what needs to be done with the FSA and promoting good mental health and saying, guys, there is stuff you can do and it's not going to be expensive, putting some adverts in your programme, doing a bit of awareness, linking up with your local mind organisations will change people's lives. Yeah. And that, in a sense, is what we've strived to do, create that national identity. We haven't got it yet, Andy. We're still struggling in many ways in terms of getting that sort of local identity, but that's improving all the time through the networking that we're doing. But as a national identity, that's a job that needs to be done. And it's that realisation as the season is coming to the end, as things are getting sorted out, you think, hang on, you look at your to-do list and you think, I've still got that to do. How am I going to do that?
Kind of, you can't be in two places at once, sort of thing.
Got it. Absolutely, mate. So that's it. So it was that thing on seasons coming to the end. We've sat down with Steve and Rich and Liam. We've talked about next season. I'm thinking, tick, tick, tick. They're a fantastic group of gents to work with. Huge admiration and respect for them and what they've achieved. Not just first team, but the way they've become embedded in the club.
Yeah, I said that to Steve in an interview that I'd done with him.
I was shamed, Andy, last Saturday while I'm still in my pyjamas doing something on the laptop at 9:30 in the morning. Steve has driven down from Worcestershire to be at the under-11 girls final. And you think, Mr. Chairman, you should have been there. I wasn't there. Other things, Steve was there.
Yeah.
And he's there for the youth team matches. He's there. He did, some of the sponsored walk with us. We are lucky to have such a talented young manager with us. As I say, we've sat down with him. We know what the plans are. We know in terms of the player targets they want. Their ambitions are exactly the same as our ambitions in terms of moving up, getting promoted. I've got to say that to keep Matt happy, haven't I?
He will text me otherwise. He does not want to go to the same grounds. No, I think we've got one more season at this level, Andrew, and then Matt might lose him.
So realistically, that I think is a target for next season.
Yeah.
That's great. And in a sense, whoever takes over from me takes over with a very strong budget for the first team, takes over with a very strong youth section, with a very strong, everywhere that you look at the club, its strengths. Mm. And as I say, what we don't have yet is that national identity, that sort of the importance of the brand. And I know that sort of all gets a bit businessy and a bit marketing-y, etc. But you go back to that very basic fundamental principle: we don't own the ground. Creasy Park is not ours. Matt and Dan yesterday had a meeting with Alan Young and other guys from Beds FA, Central Beds Council. So we know what the cost increases for the pitches next season will be. It's a significant increase. AFC will be facing exactly the same increases as well. But when you think there'll be a women's first team, there'll be the under-18s. There's Dunstable Towns. You're looking at a considerable cost in pitch hire. Everything always keeps on getting more expensive, Andy. Nothing ever gets cheaper. So our ability to not just pay the bills, but pay the bills and invest in the structure of the club and invest in the future. When you don't have the recourse, in a sense, to hire out the clubhouse, to take any of the secondary spend on match days, means we all have to work harder at doing the other things. And as a group of directors 4 or 5 years ago, when we were talking about community ownership and how would community ownership work, what would it look like, we took the decision from the get-go that we needed to have an identity and a brand, and that was always going to be around mental health. Mm. And what we've done, I think, locally is fantastic. I think it's brilliant, and Chris has come on board as one of our mental health ambassadors. So there's Chris and Yvonne. We'll be doing a presentation up at the FSA AGM in Manchester in June. Pete Bottom's going to come up for that as well with Chris. So there'll be the three of us doing it. And it's that preparation. It's that is our sort of line in the sand, right, guys? As from now, this is what we're going to be doing. This is what needs to be done. So in 12 months' time, Andy, when I stand for re-election to the FSA National Council, I don't want people saying to me, "When am I going to re-elect you? You haven't done anything."
Yeah.
What? Show me what you've done for 3 years. Well, so there has to be something. Otherwise, mental health will go off the agenda. There'll be other people within the FSA with their own special interests, which they want the FSA to adopt and to prioritise. As a club, we've wanted it to be mental health, and in a sense, it's been my responsibility to drive that forwards. Mm. And I now really need to, as I say, sorted the club out. The club runs fine. The club is running as well as I think it has done at any stage. It's got good people there. We've got Julian and Lee as non-executive directors, giving us the value of their sort of business experience. So, as a chairman, but I'm still a director, my primary responsibility is to put the best interests of the club first. The best interests of the club at the moment are now me pursuing
outside.
Absolutely, Andy.
Yeah.
But I'll still be here. I'll still be doing the business networking on a Wednesdays. I'll still be doing the community groups on a Wednesday afternoon, and Thursday I'll still be coming to directors' matches. And I'll be going to the Globe with Scotty on match days for regimental drinks. So look, it's the only thing that changes is that the chairperson changes.
Yeah.
So it's as simple as that.
How do you look back on the last 5 years? What would you say has been your proudest moment as chairman? Obviously, I've been at the club now 3.5, nearly 4 years. We talk about the mental health side of it. We talk about what we've done on the pitch, off the pitch. For you personally, from when you took over the role to where we are now, we're one game away from ending in this season. Yep. What would you say has been your proudest moment as Dunstable Town chairman?
I'm going to answer that in a minute, Andy. Can I just initially say I want to just go back 3 years earlier to 2017 because I've sort of been thinking about this quite a lot. The two chairmen before me, Alex Alexandru and Neil Barker, my goodness me, without those guys, there would have been...
telling Neil he should have a statue outside here. He won't let me build it, mate.
There wouldn't have been an Andrew Madaras in 2020 taking over as chairman. So those guys and Tony McCool, Gareth Jackson, in terms of the managers who gave absolutely everything to this club, they need a special shout out. So those guys laid the sort of the foundations, in a sense, for us, myself and Matt. Then when we sort of came chair and vice chair together, then to sort of have a bit of a rethink and say, we know what we want. We know what we want to do. We have a vision of what the club should be doing. Julian came on board in terms then of giving us that business experience. With Julian came Lee, and that then the move into community ownership. And I think if you're asking me what has been my proudest moment,
yeah.
Andy, I think it's 12 months ago we were down at Plough Lane in AFC Wimbledon, and it's being told that you've won the Community Club of the Year award. I think that probably is about as good as it gets. We nearly followed it up at the FSA Awards in December. We were shortlisted with...
To even be nominated in that was...
Yeah, look, we were up against...
Some of the teams we were
Torquay
up against.
United and the non-league paper, and, the whole irony is the non-league paper gave us the award in earlier on, and the FSA gave the award to the non-league paper. So yeah. Look, I think it's that, Andy.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk us through the process? Obviously, I always say to you guys, whenever I interview you, and I'm chatting to Matt on the podcast, you're never going to give me any trade secrets. I wouldn't expect you to. What's the process now for Dunstable Town electing a new chairman? Obviously, we're coming to the end of the season now, so like you said, it probably is the perfect timing. We're all going to hit the reset button. We're all going to go on our holidays for 5-6 weeks, and then we're going to come back for pre-season. I spoke to Steve O'Reilly. Obviously, he gets to work straight away pretty much. He's going to have a little holiday, but football's never far from our thoughts. What does the process look now like for the club as we try to elect a new chairman, as we want to head into next season with someone new at the helm?
Yeah, so, okay, well, look, the AGM is provisionally booked for Friday the 6th of June. So we've got between then and now, in a sense, to sort of manage that sort of transitional process. So there are things that we still need to do as a group of directors. There is still a strategy paper that needs to be developed, finalised, and in a sense then disseminated around all the club's owners. It's important for me that the owners know if people are going to invest 30 quid a year or 50 quid a year, 100 quid, whatever it is, that you're not just giving us money and expecting, what are you going to do with that money again? Like, where's it going? So that's the purpose of putting a strategy paper, so that people say, okay, well, this is what the club's going to do in the community, this is what it's going to do in terms of women's football, youth football, first team football, this is what it's going to do in terms of what we're going to provide for the owners, what we're going to provide for the community, etc. So that piece of work is still doing. But it also gives my colleagues time to have a think about whether they want to be the person that is going to take over. So last year I stood again as director. It's a 2-year term of office, so all of the directors are elected by the owners. They get a 2-year term of office. In a sense, they've all got job plans and goals that I want them that they set themselves, so that when they stand for a re-election, they can say, these were my targets, and I've met them or I've not met them, whatever. So the actual process, most likely, Andrew. Now I do need Andy.
Just call me Andrew.
Sorry. The most likely scenario is that because I've still got a year left of my term of office, that whoever amongst the directors group says, I'd like to stand, is that we would then have a vote within the director group. In a year's time, I think it would then go out to the general owners, but I do need to check that, Andy.
Me and Brad can be chairman and vice chairman in a
if
year's
you
time.
are owners, and
okay.
So that's the thing, Andy. So this is the whole thing. This is the whole beauty of community ownership. If you are an owner, you can stand for election to be a director. If you feel there is some burning issue which you think Dunstable Town should be associated with, or you've got skills which you think the club needs, you can stand as a director and, put forward your manifesto, so to speak, and see whether your co-owners agree with you.
Mm. Wow.
So I think, Andy, to answer your question, I think this will be an internal appointment. This will be directors making a decision about whether they want.
Who takes over?
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, what would your final message be as we sit here me and you doing this for the final time as on the podcast as chairman? I asked Steve to give a message to the fans.
Yeah.
What would your final message be to the people of the fans at Dunstable Town? You're not going anywhere, but as chairman, it's been a good 5 years.
Yeah.
I know you probably can't put into words. So I spoke to you briefly yesterday on text, and like you said, you've been very humbled by the messages that you've got. Would there be a message to the Dunstable Town fans, your fellow directors, as you end your 5 years as chairman?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of messages. One is to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to everyone, especially to Matt, because Matt has been through thick and thin with me. And we had when we chatted on a couple of days ago when I said, Matt, I've made a decision, this is it. And we sort of reminisced about the old days 5 years ago when we're walking around the estate and it's just the two of us and Brad, and you just come on board as well. And, so Matt's been an absolute rock for me. So, and people need to know that. People need to know that all of us live, breathe, eat, sleep Dunstable Town. And nothing, in a sense, nothing will change. The club's in a really good place. Next season, I'm convinced, is going to be a really good season on and off the field. And yeah, look, it's thanks to everybody. Thanks to the directors, thanks to the supporters, thanks to the owners, thanks to the guys in the groups, 200 of them every week who come and in a sense enrich us with their lives and with their stories, and that's in a sense that's why we do this.
Yeah, well, Andrew, I know I can only speak for the fans and obviously myself on the podcast. Just thank you for all the time you've given us. You could always just say no to doing an interview. I mean, since we started doing Talk of the Town, Talk of the Town, a couple of seasons ago, probably 3 seasons ago now, we first started doing it on a phone. We're now here with Brad doing it on YouTube. So I pretty much I speak for all the fans, mate. It's never easy, like I said at the start of the episode. Doing something like this is hard work. You get people like me bugging you constantly with this and this. And you've always said to me, you can come to me with 10 problems. If I can answer 3 of them, then that's great. And yourself, Neil, you've always said that to me. You've always been very open. You've always listened to our ideas. Some of them might be left field. Some of them you've gone, actually, yeah, that's good, and we can input that. So the biggest compliment I can give you is that you've always been, as a chairman, very open, very honest. You've listened, and you really do have the best interests of this football club at heart, mate. So I know I speak for all the fans, mate, when I say thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, mate. And can we just, lastly, a big shout out to Brad.
Oh, man's a legend.
800 subscribers now.
We're getting there, aren't we, Brad? We're getting there, mate.
We are getting there. That's brilliant.
Do you know why we have to win something next season? Because we still have our bet going on that he's going to be interviewed on the podcast. So the second we win anything, Brad's going to be my guest on the podcast.
I can remember saying to Brad when he got to 500, wow, mate, that is fantastic.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Done. So,
he does it. Honestly, I tell this kid every week.
Guys, social media, all of you, social media is excellent. And we hear that around the Spartan from other clubs about how good ours is. So thank you.
No problem, mate. It's very humbling. Well, don't be a stranger, as they say, Andrew.
Oh, I'll still be here, mate.
That's
don't
it,
worry.
mate. And I wish you all the best for the
future. Cheers, Andy.
No worries.
Thanks, mate.
No worries. This has been the Talk of the Town podcast. Just a big thanks to everyone that's tuned into our show throughout the season. We've got a few good things lined up throughout the summer, but till next time, and the last time as Dunstable Town chairman, up the Mighty Blues.